Yes, I do agree with the intelligence communities. They are virtually unanimous. I think the evidence is overwhelming. And we should be clear, this is not just the first time they've done it, and I suspect they're working on other efforts as well in other countries around the world.
I do think that the role of Russian interference was aggressive in the election, but that didn't get Donald Trump to 40% in the polls. It didn't get him to 45% in the polls.
When we saw him on that stage in Helsinki, defending Vladimir Putin, the head of the country that attacked our democracy in 2016, instead of this country and its citizens and this amazing democracy, that was collusion in action.
Vladimir Putin himself directed the covert cyber attacks against our electoral system, against our democracy, apparently because he has a personal beef against me. And why is that?
I never thought I'd see the day that Russia would go after the heart of our country.
This is an act of war, Allie, and what we should be doing here right now, we should have all hands on deck on the issue of cybersecurity and election security. And instead, what we have with Republicans is they're going after these unlawful voter purges. They pass these unconscionable voter ID laws that are solutions in search of a problem.
This week, we saw cold, hard evidence of the Trump campaign, indeed the Trump family, eagerly intending to collude possibly with Russia, a hostile foreign power, to influence American elections. Republicans in Congress have become enablers of the Trump-Russia assault on our democracy.
Senator Nelson, can you elaborate on what you told my colleague Steve Busquet yesterday about Russians being in Florida election records? Do you mean right now, or were you referring to 2016?
Right now.
What do you mean by they're in the election records? What do you mean by that?
Just exactly what I said. They have already penetrated certain counties in the state, and they now have free rein to move about.
This is another documentary film made by me, BC DeGraff. The DNC concocted this idea that Russia somehow hacked into their servers. We know now that the report made by CrowdStrike was disavowed. CrowdStrike was the only company to actually see the DNC servers. The FBI didn't see it, the NSA didn't see it, the CIA didn't see it. There is no evidence that there was any hack of any nature. The Russian hacking myth is debunked. You can say with certainty that it was leaked. There is no evidence of a foreign hack.
The clip you're about to see is from CNN, and it is subliminal propaganda promoting war with Russia. Intentional or not, it sends a clear message.
Just what is the state of U.S.-Russian relations, and what should it be? I have a great panel to discuss it all. Also, the 2018 election is just over 100 days away. What could Russia do
It flashes 3 words, attack, kill all, and does it twice.
this time to try to meddle?
It's seeming more and more clear what CNN's agenda really is. Their goal is to push us into war using fake news and fake stories. Many Democratic Party leaders have already declared war on Russia. They claim that Russia attacked our democracy and our country.
This is not a witch hunt. These are the facts. The fact is that the DNC was hacked, but more importantly, our democracy was attacked. The indictment alleges that there was an attack on one board of election, and they got information on roughly 500,000 voters. This is an act of war, Allie. And
a security breach is not an act of war, and it is not an attack on America. This is an overreaction to someone who did not secure their servers. It is unreasonable to call this an act of war, even more unreasonable without actual evidence given to the American people.
Vladimir Putin himself directed the covert cyber attacks against our electoral system, against our democracy, apparently because he has a personal beef against me.
Hillary Clinton's statement on Vladimir Putin ordering a cyber attack is false. She makes no attempt to be credible at all during this speech. Even more unreasonable and untrusting is the reason why she says he did it.
Because when he came back into power, because when I became Secretary of State, he was serving as Prime Minister to Medvedev, who was president. And I want you to know this because you'll go home and people will ask you. And so he decided, you know, that's the way their system works, he decided he would be president again. So in the fall of 2011, they had, quote, parliamentary elections, which were so flawed, so illegitimate, that it was embarrassing. I was your Secretary of State. At least in those years, we stood up for democracy and human rights. And one of the things that was clear was that this was a phony attempt for him to appear as though he had a parliamentary victory. And so I issued a statement. That's what Secretaries of State do. And I basically said, based on independent observations and analysis, this was an unfair, not free, illegitimate election.
Hillary Clinton is not being very honest about Russian hackers, nor is she being very honest about Vladimir Putin. The clip you're about to see is of the Rachel Maddow show. Rachel Maddow is about to tell you a bunch of lies. She makes wild claims about Bernie groups and Russian infiltrators, but she has no evidence, and you can clearly see that from this clip.
Other thing that they started doing was a huge, industrial-sized bot attack.
Her wild statements and accusations don't name any names and show no evidence of this going on.
This was not a joke. They used automated social media bots and what appeared to be paid operatives in Russia and other countries, specifically to target Bernie supporters.
She claims they're being paid, but she doesn't have any evidence of this. She doesn't have any transaction receipts or screenshots.
They took the real split in the Democratic Party between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, and they blew it up into what they hoped would be an unbreachable chasm.
Rachel Maddow ignores the disenfranchisement of the Democratic Party and the Bernie Sanders supporters. Still, she lies on.
One of the administrators at
Rachel Maddow even points out Jim Ahab Boydston. This is a Bernie delegate, and this is someone who she accuses of being a Russian spy or a Russian operative. These claims are bogus. These statements are false, and Rachel Maddow is peddling fake news.
Bernie Sanders' Facebook page in San Diego described it like this to Grimm and Cherkis at the Huffington Post, quote, people with no apparent ties to California were friending his San Diego Facebook page and sharing links from unfamiliar sites full of anti-Hillary Clinton propaganda. The stories they posted were not the normal complaints. These stories allege that Hillary Clinton had murdered her political opponents and used body doubles.
I have never ever heard this weird propaganda. We know this is untrue, and we know Bernie Sanders supporters would never say anything like this. Rachel Maddow is reaching here. Reaching. I also want to point out that Alex Jones says crazier things, but you don't seem to investigate him, and he has a cult-like following. People actually believe him more than you, Rachel.
When John Mattis, the administrator on that Bernie site in San Diego, when John Mattis started tracking down the site's domain registrations, the trail led to places like Macedonia and Albania.
Rachel Maddow has not shown any concrete proof, neither has John Mattis. Where is this evidence that Rachel Maddow and John Mattis have? If you make a claim, you have to have evidence to support that claim.
And it wasn't just San Diego. By mid-May, an administrator of a Facebook site for Bernie Sanders supporters in California, Bay Area for Bernie, was setting off her own alert about many, if not all, of the Bernie groups being inundated, quote, with bogus users.
Where is the evidence that there are bogus users in Bernie Sanders groups? Are there any screenshots of this? There is all of these claims that Rachel Maddow is making, but she is not hitting the truth. She is just making claims, and she is calling it news. Rachel Maddow has not shown us any truth here. She has not shown us any evidence for her claims, for John Mattis's claims, for any of these users' claims.
At Sane Progressive, they were posting the same warning. At Bernie Sanders is my hero, the administrators there were posting their own version of the warning, basically saying, listen, something is happening.
This is fake news right here. This is absolutely fake news. And I want to point out that chainmail is not newsworthy. There is literally no evidence for this, and they are still making this claim. Rachel Maddow is the queen of fake news.
Happening here that is not native to our community. They were warning that these bogus postings were, quote, developed to be appealing to burners, to Bernie Sanders supporters, but they were not.
Okay, I'm sorry. They were appealing to burners, but then they weren't? What the hell happened?
From an American or Bernie supporting point of view.
Okay, now you're just splitting hairs. Where are these posts at, by the way? Where are these posts? No screenshots? You mean to tell me that you got screenshots of these people saying it, but you don't have screenshots of them doing it?
The real Bernie supporters in this country, the people who were, for example, running the Facebook pages in support of him by and large, they were trying to stop this.
Where are these people at? Why didn't you bring them on your show, Rachel? You have no evidence of any of this. You're just making a claim and going by with what a few people are saying. That's not news. That's just sad.
As we see the evidence of that now, looking back at it.
She says there's evidence, but there's really not.
But even they seem to have realized that their sounding the alarm about this was pretty much futile. People just couldn't hear it. A few days before the election, John Mattis posted on his San Diego Bernie page, quote, "To all that get news from this page, be advised that groups from Macedonia have infiltrated this page and other Bernie pages, planting fake hate stories about Hillary."
So I just tracked down John Mattis and asked him about his claim. Let's see how he responds to this.
His response was, there was a misinformation broadcast that suggested that I had seen Russians help in the Sanders campaign. That is not true. No one in the Sanders campaign in any way had evidence that Russians were helping Bernie in the primary.
It turns out that John Mattis is actually an investigative reporter. The kind that investigates scams, yet has neoliberal talking points about Vladimir Putin, Russia, Trump, and collusion. John Mattis is either a scammer or he's being scammed. Either way, he's promoting a scam.
Chasing down crooked car dealers that rob families. How many scams are you running? How many military families do you want to rip off? Or confronting big oil over their profits.
In one word, obscene, outrageous, or just reasonable.
But most of all, it's about standing up for you against all those schemers out there.
It's kind of ironic. Someone who investigates scams and corruption is now a product of scam and corruption and pushing the narrative towards war with Russia.
I would reach out to Josephine Pirelli and Jim Boydston on the John Mattis case. Here's what they had to say.
He was a Bernie supporter volunteer, at least that's what he claimed to be, but he went around telling people that he was the admin of our pages and started spreading lies about it. And I was a former admin, Crystal Coleman. She created the San Diego for Bernie Sanders 2016 Facebook group page, and Sharon Windham was another admin. The three of us were admins. Jim was a frequent flyer, and we were on that page all the time, especially during the primaries up until the general. But John Mattis went around to local papers saying he was the admin and that he noticed a bunch of fake Russian news stories on our page that were trying to get us to not vote for Hillary. First of all, he was never, ever an admin, ever. And he only said that to gain credibility, saying that he added people to the group and that he regretted that he added them. All lies. He was never an admin. In fact, he was hardly even on our page or hardly ever even posted anything on our page. But I left, and so did Sharon. We started the community page for Bernie Sanders in San Diego. Crystal has been the admin from the beginning, still is the admin. John was never an admin, but he lied about it. Now that he's gained credibility, he's been in the Huffington Post. He's been on the Rachel Maddow show. That's how Jim got roped into this. And now he's going to be on Chris Hayes, and he's still spewing the same lies about our pages being infiltrated with fake Russian news stories. Not true.
During the primary campaigns, at the grassroots level locally, we were all together at a lot of events. So there were lots of times that we were hanging out with John, and then when this Russiagate narrative started with him, of course, people who like Josephine and Sharon Wyndham on Facebook tried to confront him online about it, and he ignored them. And I tried to confront him about it as just basically being active in the groups and active in the campaign. And he blocked me. That was his response. Now, there was another time that some of us went to a Democratic club meeting in North San Diego County where he was giving his spiel about the Russiagate narrative.
What John was doing was going to all the various Democratic clubs. We have like maybe 15 of them in San Diego. He was going around giving presentations to all these Democratic Vote Blue No Matter Who clubs, saying how our Bernie pages were being infiltrated, and that's why Hillary lost, because of the fake news stories. So we decided to all go up to Vista, where he was scheduled to be at a meeting, to try to confront him and say, hey, stop the lies.
Well, and Sharon, who is a real documentation nerd, she had a 3-ring binder full of documentation that disproved all the stuff he alleged. And we all, as a group, towards the end of the meeting, went up to talk to him, and he literally tried to cut and run. And one of the other members of our group went over, grabbed him by the arm, and pulled him back over. And as we tried to ask him questions, he did nothing but tried to obfuscate the whole time.
After, we tried to talk to everybody in the group, the Democratic Vista Club, they turned up the location where it was being held. They turned up the music to drown us out. And then they said that we weren't invited there and we should all leave. They were getting very vocal. This is the Democratic, okay? They didn't want to hear the truth. They wanted to be comforted in their lies. And, Joanne, Sharon Wyndham, in fact, had lunch with him like a couple of weeks before the first news story broke out of him claiming to be an admin, and he never, ever said anything to us. And I want to also point out the journalistic integrity of Rachel Maddow. She did not even bother to check to see if he was an admin. I'm sorry, how much money does she make? And she has an entire staff. She can't go on Facebook to see if he really was an admin, or contact the admin of the page and say, hey, is this really going on? No. They just want to spread the lies.
And it was funny, once I was, I'll say it, attacked by her, I went to her Facebook page. I tried to contact her through the website, got no response. No retraction
Joanne
whatsoever.
Tried many times contacting all the various publications that started saying these lies, saying it wasn't true. We wanted it retracted. We wanted it corrected. Nobody gave us the time of day. They're still trying to cling to that lie and spread it like wildfire.
He was alleging that they were fake accounts that were generated in Eastern Europe, former Iron Curtain countries, that were posting hateful lies about Hillary Clinton to discourage people from voting for her.
One of the news out was that she was sick and had some kind of illness, and of course people were speculating at the time because she only collapsed a few times. So of course people were wondering how ill she was and whatever. But I guess speculating about her health, which she publicly fell many times. I guess that means that we didn't vote for her if we posted anything about that. In fact, it wasn't regular mainstream media articles that were discussing her health, you know, but he was saying that there was Albania, or whatever. Macedonia, people that were posting fake stories about Hillary, and it inundated our pages. Our pages were infiltrated with it. Not true. We had more problems with Correct the Record.
She posted lots of printed quotes from articles and stuff about how John Mattis made all these allegations about Eastern European bot infiltration, working for Trump and Putin, and how references to him being an admin,
Never was.
which he never was. So it was all there. All the evidence was there. And then not too long ago, we heard another interview from an independent journalist from Canada who actually spent about 45 minutes talking to John Mattis, and he referred to us as sad.
And now he's going to be on Richard Hayes, or on Chris Hayes, and he's going to be the same thing all over again, more lies.
And then he talked about having had some discussions with David Brock. For me, hearing him talk about David Brock and his conversations with him was just confirmation, because I had been alleging for quite some time that I felt that he was probably on David Brock's payroll.
He was in some group that David Brock was involved in, and I forget now. He said he was in daily contact for a while.
Never saw I'd see the day that Russia would go after the heart of our country.
The Democrat is facing one of the toughest races in the fall. In a fiery statement, McCaskill saying, "I will not be intimidated. I've said it before and I will say it again. Putin is a thug and a bully."
To this day, there has not been any evidence to suggest that Russia meddled in any way in our elections. Our intelligence agencies have not provided any evidence or given us any data for their findings. Their claim is based on a disavowed report that was disavowed by the DOA from CrowdStrike, the only company to ever see the servers. Their initial report said that Russia infiltrated the DNC and the DCCC servers. This is incorrect. This is fake news. John Mattis is fake news.
The Russian interference is debunked. Now, the electoral vote decides our president. They decided that Donald Trump would be the next president of the United States. Russian ads that amounted up to $100,000 did not stop Hillary Clinton, did not spread misinformation. They were memes, they were puppy pics, and some of them even were for Hillary Clinton. Some of them tweeted out Joy Reid tweets.
Major allegations this week that Russians hacked Florida's voting systems without providing specific information because he said it was classified. Nielsen tweeted this: "I and several of my Senate colleagues are trying to make sure state officials are aware of the ongoing Russian threat so they take the steps necessary to safeguard our elections. It's unfortunate that some Florida officials would try to use this."
Wow, but state officials are demanding proof, saying they have, quote unquote, zero information to back up Senator Nelson's claims, including our next guest, who's running to take Nelson's Senate seat. He's Florida's Republican Governor, Rick Scott. He joins us live. Thanks for coming in this morning, Governor.
Good morning.
Good morning. He didn't say it was a threat. He said that the chair and the vice chair of the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee said the Florida election systems have been penetrated and Russians are free to move around. He was clear that it was happening. Then when he was asked for details, he said, "Oh, it's classified." Then on Friday, when we asked for more information, he said, "Well, the administration is withholding information." So one of the two things is happening. Either he's simply made it up, or he's released classified information. That's the only two things that can happen.
That should not be out there in the public domain.
Yeah, we want to have free, fair elections in the state. We did in 2016. We spent a lot of money to make sure that we have a system that's very difficult to penetrate, hopefully impossible to penetrate. And now he is saying either it happened or he simply made it up. It's one of two things. Yeah. He needs to be clear. Tell us what happened.
Senator Bill Nelson isn't going to tell the truth. Senator Bill Nelson has joined the ranks of Tom Perez, Hillary Clinton, and Claire McCaskill. These are all people who have said that Russia attacked our democracy. Let's take a look at someone who actually knows what's really going on, Julian Assange.
Hillary Clinton has done quite well strategically to try and draw connection between Trump and Russia. Because she has so many connections of her own. Now, my analysis of Trump and Russia is that there is no substantial connection. Why do I say that? Well, because Trump was trying to invest in Russia before Putin in the 1990s, after Putin, in fact, nearly all the way up to the present moment. And he's had no success. He did not manage to build hotels and so on in Russia. So that shows how insubstantial his contacts are. There's an extremely well-documented pattern of when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, those people, companies, governments, who wanted a decision by the Secretary of State in their favor, making large donations to the Clinton Foundation or in some other cases, business deals with the people around Hillary Clinton. Now, one particular instance is the approval by Secretary Clinton of selling 20% of the U.S. uranium reprocessing rights to a Russian company to be exported to Russia.
So, what we can determine by Bill Nelson's claim is that he is playing out of the Hillary Clinton playbook. Bill Nelson's claims are far-fetched and unbelievable. Thank you guys for watching.